In my 20s and 30s, I moved like an 80-year-old man who just had hip surgery. Every morning I'd wake up and I would always think about my low back and making sure that I didn't get up in a way that would trigger chronic pain. Every time I got up from a chair, I had to do it slowly and carefully because the wrong angle would trigger a painful shot up my spine. And this went with every single everyday activity that you can think of. I dealt with this for a full decade and I tried everything from stretching to physiotherapist appointments, to painkillers, and nothing worked long term. I remember sitting across a chiropractor who had just adjusted me, and I was told by him that I would need to keep on coming back to him for the rest of my life just to manage the pain. Each session was $75, and I had to do that for the rest of my life. So I said, that. This forced me to go on and find my own answers, and what I eventually found is that low back pain is not what most people think it is. So in this video, I want to show you the protocol I use to help heal my chronic low back pain, but first, we have to ask ourselves, what causes low back pain in the first place? And the answer might surprise you. Most people actually think that the low back pain comes from the low back itself, but what's most surprising to a lot of people is that it actually doesn't come from a single factor. What I suffered from was a system that had been undersupported for a long time. So the spine is held in place by layers of muscle, and when those layers are weak, deconditioned, or inflamed, the low back absorbs the stress like it was never designed to handle alone. Add in long hours of sitting at a desk, poor hip function, and a body that's running on high inflammation, and you get a structure that constantly feels like it's under attack. Now, stretching may make it feel better for a period of time, but it won't fix it. Painkillers are not a long-term solution for anything. All these address symptoms, and none of them address the underlying weaknesses. What I found that works is a sequence. You can build it from the outside in, earning the right to load each layer before you move on to the next. Now, before I walk you through the full protocol, I want to be clear about something. There is a specific sequence here, and if you skip the steps, you will re-injure yourself, and I know it because that's what I did. And we're going to go in the gym because I want to show you these exercises and not just describe them. Now, most people make the same mistake when their back hurts. They go straight for the low back. Don't do that. Your hips are one of the biggest contributors to spinal stability. And also, when your hips, glutes, and core are all weak, your lower back compensates for everything. So before you touch the low back directly, you want to build the surrounding foundation. There are 4 exercises that carry most of the load here. Now, the first set of exercises is called the McGill Big 3, and you probably heard about this, but a lot of people get these wrong. So please, I'm going to show you how to do them properly so you don't f it up. This set of exercises were created by Dr. Stuart McGill, who is one of the leading researchers on the spine. What the McGill Big 3 does is trains your spine to stabilize under controlled conditions. Starting with the first exercise, which is the bird dog. So you're gonna get into all fours right here. Now, when you're doing the bird dog, there are 2 things that you wanna do. Number 1 is that you're not going to do this passively. You're not going to rush through this exercise. You're going to be activating specific muscles, namely the core and your glutes. Now, when you activate the core, I'm going to be repeating one thing over and over, which is to say that you need to brace your core. And what does that mean? That means that you're pushing the core out. I like to tell my clients that imagine you're getting punched in the stomach by Mike Tyson. Would you suck in your stomach or would you push it out to protect yourself?
Oh, quick combination of the head, and down goes Nielsen.
I hope he said push out. Now, the second one we want to activate is the glutes. And you're going to see that this is not a passive exercise. It's actually one that could be one of the hardest exercises you do, depending on how much intent that you bring in. So you get into all fours. The purpose of this is to make sure we're stabilizing the hips and the spine, keeping it in place. I like to lift one leg up, one arm up, opposite sides. And you can actually touch with your hand, bring it out, squeezing the glutes, pushing the abs out, getting that full extension, bringing it back, then doing it again. Now, when you're watching me do the bird dog, you're going to notice that it looks difficult, which it should. Many people do the bird dog passively. Oh yeah, I'm doing something. Yeah, this is great for me. But it's not doing shit. Every second of the rep in the bird dog is done actively with intent, bracing that core, squeezing those glutes. And we want to do at least 6 of these per side 3 times a week. The next exercise is going to be called the McGill Crunch, and it's going to look simple, but it's anything but. When I do the McGill Crunch, you're going to see that I'm keeping one hand inside of my lower back to make sure that I'm stabilizing the low back as I do this. And again, as I'm doing this, I'm going to be pushing my abs out. So McGill crunch looks like this. Keep one hand on top of the core so you can actually feel yourself pushing it out. I like to take a deep breath in because this is going to create something called intra-abdominal pressure, which is going to create more of a brace. Brace. Then back down. Brace. Then back down. Now, when I'm doing this crunch, you're gonna notice that I'm not trying to extend as much as possible. I'm going within where my core and my brace stops. We're gonna do the third exercise, which is going to be the side plank. And here's the thing about the side plank. It actually helps build this thing called lateral stability, which is the part that most people ignore. I'm gonna show you level 1, and then I'm gonna get up to level 2, which is where we want to be eventually when we do this exercise. Now, level 1 is gonna be both knees down, and I'm making sure that my body is in a straight line. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm going to be bracing my core, squeezing my glutes, and now the next part is gonna be activating my oblique as well as underneath my lat right over here. So hands gonna be on top, 1, 2, 3. And I'm just gonna hold for about 2 to 3 seconds, bracing, letting it come back down. Brace. Now, level 2 would be your arms extended out. This is going to create more weight on top of that stabilization on the oblique, on the glutes, on the core. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Now for the McGill Big 3, we want to do at least 6 reps per side per exercise for each and every exercise, and make sure that it's not passive. You're doing it in an active way where you're activating each and every muscle that you need to, specifically the glutes and the core. Now this next exercise is going to be one for the glutes, and it is called the hip thrust, and then I'm going to be doing this on a bench. Now the hip thrust is one of the best glute strengthening exercises because it doesn't load up your spine. Now the key for this one is to start with your body weight, especially if you haven't done this exercise, and then make sure that you don't add load until the pattern feels right to you. All right, so as I do this exercise, I'm gonna keep my arms out to stabilize myself. I'm gonna keep my upper back on. You're gonna have to find where the right place is for the bench. Make sure that the bench is connected at least to a solid support or a surface, so it's not gonna move back every single time that you do a rep. Now, if you wanna add any weight to this, you would add a barbell or a dumbbell, but only when it is ready. And then we're gonna squeeze our glutes at the top, back down. Squeeze our glutes at the top, and squeeze our glutes at the top and back down. Now, once you have that foundation set, we want to be doing these exercises for at least 4 to 6 weeks. And then once we have trained the supportive muscles around the low back, we have gained the right to use 2 exercises to actually strengthen our low back. So now that we have strengthened the supportive muscles around the low back, we want to go into direct lower back strengthening work. So this piece of equipment, you may not have it, but it can be found in every single area of the gym. It is called a low back extension. So the very first exercise that I would do before even going into reps using the low back extension is to actually do holds. So we're gonna be holding this position right here. Now, I'm gonna make sure that I'm not overextending because that can actually create more pain in the low back. What I'm doing is I'm actually going to be squeezing at the glutes. I'm keeping this low back extension just right below my pelvis, and I'm just gonna hold for about 20 to 30 seconds. I would do that for at least 1 week. Once you get up to doing about 1 minute of that, then you can actually lift one leg and then strengthen each side, specifically doing the same thing, making sure that we're squeezing the glute, holding that, keeping that there for about 1 minute, switching up, going to the next leg, and then again, we're doing that for about 1 minute total. Now, these are isometric holds, and what they do is they actually help you activate the muscle that you're using. They do build a little bit of strength and also a little bit of hypertrophy, but the most important thing is that we're activating the muscles that we want to activate. So the first phase is doing double leg holds, second phase is doing single leg holds, and then the next phase is to add repetitions. When you're doing this, you want to keep it again underneath your pelvis. Your feet are going to be slightly pointed out, making sure that we're not overextending because that can actually create more damage. What we want to do is we want to find the point where our glutes and our hips stop activating. So I'm going to bring it down here. When I come up, I'm not going to overextend, just going to bring it all the way up to there. 2, 3. And then once you're able to do 15 to 20 reps of that, then you can start adding load. The biggest mistakes with this phase is when people just forego the isometric holds. Even though it may seem boring, they are super important, and you will find that you will have more stability just by having that in as opposed to not. The other one is going to be adding load too early. You don't want to add load too early to this exercise. You want to make sure that you're treading softly and then progressing as your body gets stronger. Now, the exercises that we just demoed were about 50% of what I used to heal my low back. The next part is the intangibles of how to heal your low back for good. So here's what I wish someone told me earlier. Chronic pain has a chemical component. When your body is inflamed, your pain threshold drops. And what should be a minor signal becomes this constant low-grade alarm. So I had to clean up the main offenders. And they were namely ultra-processed foods, excess sugar, and alcohol, because you simply cannot defeat inflammation when your environment is riddled with it. And then I want to add the things that actively fight inflammation, things like omega-3s from fatty fish, colorful vegetables, adequate protein, and enough water. Actually, 2 fruits that I started eating more of were cherries and blueberries because they contain anthocyanins, which have a tremendous impact on reducing inflammation. Now, I didn't eat perfectly, but even 80% of the time, I could feel the difference in how my low back felt within a couple of weeks. One of the most underrated therapies for low back pain is actually daily movement. Now, a lot of people, when they deal with low back pain, they actually don't want to move at all. But movement does something special to your low back. Even with light walking, what you're doing is you're bringing mobility to getting the body out of these static positions that compress the spine for hours at a time. It also releases this thing called synovial fluid that actually acts as lubricant for your joints, which makes them feel a little bit more smooth. And the best part is that 20 to 30 minutes a day is enough. And I've talked about this in a lot of videos where I just combined walking with my work by getting a treadmill desk. The next most underrated part that not a lot of people think about is sleep. Most people don't connect their sleep to their pain levels, but they should. When you're sleep deprived, your body's ability to regulate inflammation weakens. Your pain tolerance decreases and your recovery slows. The same lower back pain that felt manageable after a solid 8 hours becomes genuinely difficult after a few nights of poor sleep. What we need to do is we need to treat sleep as part of the treatment. Have consistent sleep and wake times, a cool dark room, no screens in the hour before bed. It's simple, but they have a compounding effect on how my low back felt within 2 weeks that was hard to ignore. Now, the last tool is going to be your mind, and this one actually gets skipped almost universally. First, you have to believe that you can be pain-free. The belief is the first step to overcoming anything. Whenever I talk to people who have chronic low back pain, they think that they're going to be stuck with the pain forever. They actually don't believe that there is a solution, but you have to believe that there is a solution to every single problem. You just have to find it. There's this ancient Hindu belief that low back pain and just pain in general in the body points to something that modern medicine is slowly catching up to. Unresolved emotional tension manifests physically. John Sarno spent decades documenting this, that repressed emotions can create real, measurable pain. And for emotional pain, I found that the best way out is through. A great book on this is actually called Letting Go by David Hawkins, and also Dr. John Sarno's book on healing low back pain. And at the very least, these books will give you an awareness of what's happening and also give you the tools to go through it. And last, I actually observed that I had the identity of someone who had low back pain. I actually felt the pain so often that I didn't even know who I would be without it. And people who identify as being someone with a bad back tend to stay that way. The identity reinforces the experience reinforces the identity. So part of healing was actually changing how I talked and believed about my low back in the first place. One thing I kept telling myself was my back was healthy and it's getting stronger every day. And even though these may seem delusional, you have to understand that your words are powerful and how you use them determines your reality. So make sure that you're actually telling yourself the right things. The one thing I implore you when you're healing your low back pain is to set a long time horizon for your healing. There will be good weeks and there will also be setbacks. And setbacks don't mean that you failed or that you're broken. It's all part of the journey. The framework that I shared above took me several months to work through, and by the end of it, I didn't even realize that I had back pain in the first place. Now, I still warm up before training. I still manage my loads thoughtfully whenever I'm lifting, but I wake up free and without pain, and that is what I wish for you. So if you've been dealing with this, know that I know exactly what you've been experiencing, and it's not permanent. It's a system problem, and system problems are solvable. You just have to find the right approach and fix it in the right order. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video.